My 30M wife, 29F, having dinner alone with a male, 31M, friend. My wife and I have been together for 5 years. Married for 8 months. 4 years ago we were long distance for 3 months. When her company asked her to work in another state to assist on a project. While she was there she worked in a new team. And made friends with some of them. One of the people she made friends with was Brian, 31M. She moved back home with me at the end of the 3 months and lost touch with everyone. Then, last week, Brian messaged her saying he was in town for the next 2 months and asking to catch up. She agreed and they organized to meet for dinner at a restaurant this week. She mentioned this in conversation and I was a bit upset as it made me feel uncomfortable that they were having a one-on-one dinner together. She said she understood my concerns, but that it was purely platonic. She showed me the text messages between them, as proof that there was nothing going on, and it did all look platonic. He was even asking her about advice for dates he was going on with other women, e.g. asking for restaurant recommendations, etc. I said that if it's truly platonic then I should be invited along to the dinner. She said that she wanted to be able to catch up one-on-one as they were just going to discuss work. And it would change the dynamic if I was there. And she didn't want a rule where I have to be invited every time she wants to hang out with a male friend. She didn't want to be the girl who has to invite her husband everywhere. She offered instead to organize a second meeting while he is in town, so I can meet him then, but keep the existing dinner as a one-on-one. She said it bothered her when her friends get in a relationship and suddenly they bring their partner to everything and she never gets to be one-on-one with them anymore. Today, as it turns out, Brian messaged her and said that he would be bringing his girlfriend along as she was unexpectedly available that evening. This frustrated my wife as she considered that he was doing what she disliked, i.e. bringing partner along, changing the vibe and conversation, and never getting to meet friend one-on-one. She then agreed to invite me along too, as Brian's partner was also coming. The whole thing left me feeling uneasy. How should I approach this situation? I'm sure she will have male friends in the future who she wants to hang out with. And I don't want to be overbearing, controlling. But I don't really understand why they have to meet one-on-one without me. Others. TLDR wife wanted to go to one-on-one dinner with a male friend. Seems like she wanted a simple one-to-one hangout with a friend that ended up getting overly complicated. It's not surprising that conversations get skewed depending what people are around to hear it. So whatever conversation topics she wanted to cover with her friend will need to be altered to accommodate everyone else at dinner. Honestly, she seems pretty honest about what she is thinking. It's all consistent. I'd trust her with this one. Your wife is being really open with you. She showed you their messages without real prompting and even wanted you to meet him at a later date. It doesn't sound like anything fishy is going on here. Especially if Brian has a girlfriend he's bringing along. It's not super unheard of that your wife would want time with her friend without you there. You aren't attached at the hip. She's right that it would be a different dynamic if she brought her husband and is justifiably upset that the situation is now different. If she had brought you along it would have definitely come off as she was forced to bring her controlling husband along. I know that isn't your intent, but it is the vibe you're giving off. Ask yourself why this bothers you so much. Are you jealous? Have you been cheated on in the past? Get to the root of your issues because your wife isn't doing anything wrong. You know your wife better than we do. But it seems like she's being open and honest about this relationship. She's not acting like she's trying to hide something from you. As someone who was in a much different business than my husband, I understand her point about not wanting to have someone who tags along to these types of dinners. And then you don't get to talk about business things like you wanted to. And it is a different vibe. I have guy friends and I've been to dinner with them. Without my husband. And I've never cheated on my husband. Our marriage is secure, so he never seems worried about it. Insisting on going along would indeed be controlling and unreasonably distrustful of someone who has given you no reason to distrust her. As long as your marriage is good, you have nothing to worry about. If it's not good, that's where your attention should be. I have female work friends that I would absolutely have platonic dinners with. My girlfriend goes out with her married boss and other coworker. If they end up catching up multiple times a week, I might get worried. With your wife here, nothing wrong with what she described. It is a different dynamic if you're there as you're not already friends. She's shown to you it's all platonic, so what's the problem? If it was a female friend, would you have questioned why you can't be there? In this case, I would accept what your wife is saying. She seems to be open and consistent about what's going on. Exactly what about this is making you uneasy? Is it the fact that she was totally open? Is it the fact that she showed you her text messages? Is it the fact that she has a male friend? It's entirely healthy for people to have friends who are men and to have friends who are women. There is a huge difference between catching up over dinner and going out late to a bar. I don't know what your wife does, but if she wants to talk shop or gossip about folks you don't know, you would really be a third wheel in that circumstance. Mate. You got to calm down. Goodness gracious, am I glad to be married to a man who isn't threatened by me hanging out with male friends. Men and women can be friends, and work catch-ups are way more fun when they're only with people who work with you. There is no reason to suspect your wife of anything. This seems completely reasonable on her part. She's been pretty upfront with you and showed you all communication. Doesn't sound like you've got anything to worry about. Are you Mike Pence? It's reasonable for married people to have friends and want to see their friends on their own. I'm sure you don't bring your wife along every time you hang with your male friends. And I'm sure you aren't always there when she hangs with her female friends. If you view people of different genders as primarily romantic prospects, it makes sense why you'd think it's weird for your wife to want to hang with a guy alone. But it's good to consider that men and women are all just people, and that platonic relationships are possible between anyone and everyone. Completely shutting oneself off to the possibility of friendship with anyone who isn't your own gender sounds kinda sad, and like it would breed a lot of weird ideas about other people. Also, if you don't feel like you could trust your wife to spend a couple hours having dinner with a man on her own, there are larger problems than the dinner. I said if it's truly platonic, then I should be invited along to the dinner. No. If you trust your wife, then you should just let her go to the one-to-one with a friend. I tend to agree with your wife's sentiments. She sounds like she's been pretty honest and open about the whole thing. Relax. From a third perspective, this whole situation sounds like you wanting to have control over what she wants to do in life. Trust goes both ways in a relationship. Unless she did something to violate that trust, you should trust her to go to that dinner and not develop something more consequential. Also, is it wrong to not be able to go out to dinner with a friend that is just an opposite gender? You're actively limiting your wife's social life and who she can communicate with. That's a breach of her own social freedom and who she can talk with. Let's say if you did the same thing and wanted to have dinner with a friend coworker from many years ago and wanted to catch up. However, your wife suddenly doesn't want you to go and she makes a fuss about it. How does that make you feel? Do you feel like she doesn't trust you much to do the right thing? Your wife seems awesome, and went out of her way to explain, and offered compromises to changing the catch-up dinner. Honestly, she was nothing but forthcoming, and if you have no reason not to trust her, you should be so freaking grateful you have a partner who is an excellent communicator. She had a reasonable explanation using solid logic without gaslighting or accusing. That's a huge win. I'm with your wife. It does change the dynamic, and frankly, it was rude of him to bring his GF along. I had a friend like that. She'd bring her husband when he wasn't invited. Nice guy and all, but it totally changed the dynamic. We quit inviting her to things. As for the one-on-one dinner with a colleague, yeah, no. We women are capable of walking into a room full of men and not trip and fall on a dick. I have had so many one-on-one dinners with male colleagues over the years. Usually when we are on a business trip or if someone is coming through town. Almost all of my colleagues are men, and I've become friends with quite a few of them. I wouldn't think twice to meet up for a couple of beers or dinner, and my partner wouldn't care either. I feel like your wife handled it perfectly. You mentioned in a follow-up comment that you were cheated on by someone else, and that's the root of your insecurity. Well, your wife isn't that person and doesn't deserve to be treated as if she is. If you live long enough, most people are going to get cheated on at least once. I have some wicked cheating stories. Like my fiancé that knocked a chick up, married her, and moved her into my house while I was overseas working. Or my husband who was cheating on me with a man. But I am not going to not take work trips abroad or question my partner's sexuality just because I had those experiences. Besides, cheaters will find a way to cheat no matter how much you try to control them. They'll find a way. The whole thing left me feeling uneasy. Why? Do you trust your wife or not? If not, why not? How should I approach this situation? You should treat your wife as a trusted partner instead of a possession. I'm sure she will have male friends in the future who she wants to hang out with. Yup. And I don't want to be overbearing, controlling. Then don't be. But I don't really understand why they have to meet one-on-one without me. Others. You don't understand a partner's need for privacy, independence and autonomy? You don't understand her need to have her own friends? Really? Are you seriously saying that you never hang out one-on-one with your friends? Without your wife? That you don't even understand wanting to? Come on, now. An occasional get-together with a friend or coworker who doesn't live in town, regardless of gender, is nothing to get upset about if you have a healthy relationship with your spouse. Do you have some reason to believe she's being less than honest? Or is this just you being insecure? Do you have a deeply religious upbringing wherein a wife should never be alone with any man not her husband? Really? It just sounds like your wife just prefers the dynamic of one-on-one conversation over small groups.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.